This is the Bobby Moore Communications Network. Freedom of speech. Use it or lose it. And greetings, friends around the world and throughout the universe, whenever and wherever you may be. This is Bobby D. Moore. Our topic for this time is law. And like many of our monologues, this one may hit you blindsided. I can guarantee you it will not be what you expect. Way back when I was in high school, I had an old lawyer friend who gave me a very good definition of law. He said, the law is whatever the judge says it is on that particular day. I laughed at the time and I thought what he said was a joke. But since then I have come to realize that there was a lot of truth in his statement. Now let's begin by going all the way back to the very beginnings of written law. In 1772 BC, the Code of Hammurabi, 6th king of Babylon, is believed by some to be the first codified law of mankind. This is a list of 282 rules as set down by Hammurabi, with scaled punishments. It introduced the concept of an eye for an eye, and interestingly, only one of the 282 laws imposes a provision against an official. Upon close examination, we find that there are many similarities between the Code of Hammurabi and some versions of the law we enjoy today. They are all creations of man, and as a result, they all reflect the imperfections of man. Yes, over the centuries, mankind has written many codes of law, many of which are still in existence today. Let's see. There's common law, corporate law, family law, maritime law, international law, ecclesiastical law, Roman law, Mosaic law, statutory law, and, of course, the law of gravity. Now, don't laugh, I'm serious. You'll understand in a few minutes. Well, by about 439 BC, Roman law had become established in Europe with so-called 12 tables. It lasted for more than 1,000 years, culminating with the Corpus Juris Civilis ordered by the Emperor Justinian in 529 AD. And much of our present legal system in America derives from the Roman system, such as the use of Latin terminology in modern-day law. The common law originated in England and is still very much a part of the English system and of those lands which once were colonies, such as the United States. Common law is based upon precedent, that is, the decisions reached in the past under similar sets of circumstances. Statutory law, on the other hand, is the law of edict or decree, such as a law passed by Congress or the law of Hammurabi. Even the very first codified law of Hammurabi was complex, and in the years which followed, the law became more and more complex until today it is completely ambiguous and incomprehensible. All the legal systems of today and yesterday that were designed by man, as I stated earlier, are fallible. They are unjust in many cases and depend upon a judge and or jury for interpretation. In other words, the laws are no better than those who make and interpret them. The only bright spot that I have seen in the history of law is the biblical Ten Commandments, which, if obeyed, would solve most of the world's problems today. A future program will be set aside strictly for the story of the Ten Commandments. I repeat again, the laws made by man are fallible, and they are administered by fallible creatures. The creators of man's law are corrupt. The enforcers of man's law are corrupt, and the judges who interpret man's law are corrupt. I'm speaking in general terms. There are some exceptions, I'm sure. One of these days we'll do a program on nothing but corruption. Many self-righteous folks are corrupt to the core and they don't even know it. But so much for man's law, which is not really law at all. I want to speak with you now about a set of laws, or a law, which is completely infallible, does not involve crooked politicians, lying lawyers, bought and paid for judges, or on-the-take cops. It costs you nothing in the form of taxation, fees, or fines. Sounds pretty good so far, huh? It is guaranteed to be absolutely 100% uniform in its execution. It is completely free of favoritism, political payoffs, bribes, blackmail, or under-the-table deals. And the penalty for its violation is absolutely certain. There's no re-examination of the facts, no plea bargaining, no moving the case to a higher court. The penalty is guaranteed. You know, I have to tell you, this old statement that ignorance of the law is no excuse has never set well with me. But I have to admit, it is very much a part of the system of law which I am describing to you right now. It matters not whether you know and understand the law or not. A penalty will be paid for its violation. Scary, and it sounds a bit unfair to me, but that's how it is. For this reason, it becomes very, very important to do all within your power to understand the law, not just individually as a person, but as a culture, as a nation, as a people. This infallible, immutable law of which I speak exists and will continue to exist regardless of what your personal beliefs may be. Whether you believe in a supreme being or not, the law remains the same. But for the sake of discussion, for the remainder of our time together today, let's assume that you are one of those people who believes that God created the universe. If you do indeed believe that, then you must also believe that God created the laws of nature which control the known universe. That is, the laws of physics which regulate the orbits of the planets around the sun, the movements of the galaxies, all the laws of chemistry and biology, right down to the laws which determine the behavior of subatomic particles, and yes, even wave energy such as the electromagnetic radiation which is making possible this broadcast. No one can deny that these laws exist, and the purpose of true science is to discover and understand them. Now, if we believe that God created the universe, then the laws which regulate it can be called the laws of God. Does that make sense? If we violate the laws of God, knowingly or unknowingly, a penalty will be paid. If, for example, you jump off a 10-story building, you are in a sense violating the law of gravity, and the penalty is certain. It matters not whether you were pushed off the building, jumped off, or accidentally fell off. The penalty is the same. Doesn't sound quite fair, does it? Well, fair or not, go off the 10th floor and you're going to die. But I can hear some of you say, that's not fair. God doesn't want us to fall off the building. God is a good God, and He wouldn't let a thing like that happen to one of His children. Get real. I repeat, go off the 10th floor and you're going to die. Jump in front of a speeding locomotive and you're going to die. Walk into the line of fire of a .30 caliber machine gun and you're going to die. Like it or not, that's reality. And if you believe that God created the universe and the laws of physics which govern it, then the actions of those laws will produce the result described. The young child comes to understand certain aspects of natural law very quickly. He learns that a candle flame or a hot skillet will burn his finger and cause him pain. As a result, if he's a smart kid, he will in the future avoid hot skillets and candle flames. Now, we've used some very simple, if somewhat crude, examples of the inexorable penalties for the violation of the laws of nature. Not only can the violation of God's law bring hardship upon an individual, but upon many others who are innocent of the transgression. If, for example, you are a farmer who ignores conservation and the laws of biology and ecology as you raise your crops and livestock year after year after year, there will come a time when you can no longer produce enough to feed yourself and your family. You and those dependent upon you will suffer as the penalties are exacted. And on an even broader scale, a nation-state can be in violation of the laws of God and nature. Violate the law, and a penalty is sure to follow. Sometimes the penalties can be a long time in coming, and those being penalized are not even the ones who violated the laws. By now I can hear some of you say, "Why heck, I think I'd rather live under the laws of Hammurabi than under the grossly unfair laws you describe." Well, frankly, I can understand why you might make that statement. But I must tell you again, it matters not whether you or I choose to believe in a God or not, or even whether we choose to believe in these laws or not. They still exist. The laws of nature apply to chromosomes and genes just as they do to electrons and protons. Male and female parents pass on genetic traits to their offspring, and certain traits contained within a gene pool may be transmitted for many generations, whether they are desirable or undesirable traits. For this and many other reasons, choosing the best mate is important beyond description. There are, my friends, laws of nature which determine whether or not you and your life partner will have an excellent, fair, or hopeless chance of creating a happy home and family. Time and time again, I see these lovely young ladies with stars in their eyes and love in their hearts and nothing in their heads marry amid all the pomp and ceremony of weddings and receptions which their parents usually can't afford, and 1 or 2 years later we see them in divorce court, often with a child which will grow up without a complete set of parents. The long-term damage to the mother, the father, the child, and to the society is enormous. Now, these natural laws, these laws of God I keep talking about, extend into psychology, physiology, health, human relations, international diplomacy, and far beyond. So, it should be our constant aim to research and understand these laws which govern our lives and our destinies, and then to live with them in obedience to them, not in defiance of them. In other words, learn to live with God and nature. Because, you see, it's a two-way street. Sin is the transgression of the law, and the wages of sin is death. But learning to live in harmony with nature, learning to study and understand these laws of God can make your life richer and more rewarding. You can live with the satisfaction of knowing that you are living in harmony with the universe. Apply this concept to your own personal life, and you'll be happier with your spouse, your relatives, your friends, and those who aren't, and most importantly, with yourself. Remember, the only true law is God's law. Until next time, this is Bobby D. Moore saying, goodbye, friends. And once again, we would like to offer you the hour-long CD, Does God Exist? Just send an email to bobbymoorespeaks@gmail.com and say, send me the CD. And we'll send it to you as soon as possible and as long as supplies permit. Just send an email to bobbymoorespeaks@gmail.com. That's bobbymoorespeaks@gmail.com. Say, send me the CD. We'll send it to you absolutely free of charge. No handling charge, no shipping charge, no postage charge. Free. That's bobbymoorespeaks@gmail.com.